Welcome to episode 59 of Meet the Gimp. My name is Rolf Steinort and I'm recording this in Bremen, northern Germany. The strange video you're seeing here is an introduction into a topic I want to cover later in the show. It's about capturing time in photography. One method of a lot of them. But before that, I'll go into But before that, let's look at the result of my exposure checking experiment of last week. Last week I made a series of shots of a door at my school. This door is painted white. And here you see the shot as exposed by the meter of my camera. And I set the meter to center-based metering. This here is the center of the image I took. I cropped it to get a smaller file size. But this area here was metered by the camera. And this is, well, it's gray, not white. And last time I said that the meter in the camera looks at the surrounding at 18% gray. It's to the standard, it's 12% gray, and these 18% are from the printing industry. You'll find a link to a discussion about that in the show notes. The show notes are, by the way, at meetthegimp.org. Have a look there. There's always some information in there that isn't in the podcast. So let's look at the histogram of this here. You see, I have a big spike in the middle and, well, a little bit below, a little bit above it. You see here the mean is at 140, median at 144. So about 140 is the average pixel in here, the luminance of the average pixel. In theory, with medium gray, it should be 128. But, well, I don't know why it isn't really on that value, and perhaps you can make this experiment too, and we can swap our data. As you can see here, I have stacked all the images above each other here. One stop overexposure, two stops overexposure, and so on. And I'm going down to -5 and to +5 up. And now I have a problem. I want to look at the histogram and I want to look at the channels here, at the layers, sorry. And for that I simply pull the histogram dialog here out of the box. Just drop it here. Of course it moves out of the window. And here is my histogram dialog. You go to File, Dialogues, and then you have a lot of different dialogues. And can, for example, make a new doc and so on. Now let me pull this out of the way to save some screen space, so that you can look at the image and at the histogram at the same time. And I'll tell you which layer is active, and you can see it also here, which layer is active. This is ±0, the metering of the camera. And now let's just go one up here. Still, this isn't really white, but still gray. And another one up. I think this is about right of the color and structure of this door. And so now I know if I want to shoot something that is as wide and as structured as this door, I have to overexpose 2 stops. And if you remember these basic rules about shooting in snow, they always say overexpose by 1, 2, 3 stops, depends on the conditions. Let's go one higher up. This here is 3 stops overexposed, and you see we have lost nearly everything. This tells me that my camera, my D200, has about 2.5 or a little bit more than 2.5 stops into the overexposure. And if I go higher, then if I overexpose anything higher than 2.5 stops, 2.5 stops, then I'll go out of the values the camera can record and I'll have fully white. And even if I go higher here, you see we are losing it completely. And let's go back to this one here. I can try to salvage this with the how is it called? Levels tool. So let's try this. I go into and press auto, and well, I get this here. Not very good. There is a little bit more detail in now than before, but okay, not really valuable. And this was +3, as I think. Yes. Let's use the levels tool on +4. Auto, and you see here nothing is salvaged. So we are definitely running into a border at let's say about 3 stops overexposure. There's nothing to be found over it. Okay, then let's go down here. This again is 0, the real exposure. Let's climb down the ladder and look at the underexposed images. -1 stop. You see here we are down in the 90s with our median and average values. We were in the 140s, down 50 points on the scale here. And the next one, we are in the 50s, and it's fairly dark. You still see stuff here, but well, it's like deep shadow or something dark like well, a dark jacket. And now I know if I meter from a dark jacket or something like that, I have to underexpose 2 stops to get the right result. Let's go down a little bit further. -3. Here I don't know what you can see now because all this compression stuff will hit, but here I see a little bit of structure. There's still a distinction between the shadows. I can see the screw here and this cap and this rotten wood, but a lot of detail is lost. So I would say around 3 stops underexposure at the border. From 3 to 4, you are looking at 4 now, and you see nearly nothing. Around there, -3 stops, perhaps a little bit more, there is this point of meaningful black, of a value where you just can't see the details. And that would be zone 2 in the Adams system. And here you see a big difference between shooting like Ansel Adams on film and shooting on digital. I've got here, let's say, 4 stops down and 3 stops up, a range of 7 stops. And Ansel Adams himself had cut his range to 11 stops. And this is, he could have done more, but this is a problem for using Adams' system directly here. But for a start, this is okay. We can say -3 stops in metering is the beginning of meaningful black, of the stuff you can later see in the image. And we have another advantage over Adams. We can use some tools here that he hadn't. He had no undo function. If he put his film into the chemicals, well, that was it. No undo, no testing, the shot was gone. And we can do a lot of tricks, and here in the -4 I'll do the same with the levels dialog than I did with the bright one. I just click on auto and you see. So we have a lot of details here. Not very fine, but they are there. And so we can be forgiven for underexposing something. There is a thing to salvage, but not for overexposing. If you are overexposing, you have lost. There's even information left in this one here. If I use the levels tool on that, you'll see there still is stuff in there. And so if you want to shoot, if you have to shoot in darkness, just set your camera to the highest ISO that you can manage and set the shutter speed and open your aperture and then shoot away. Even if you can't see anything on the monitor, on the back of the camera, there will be details in there. Not high art, but perhaps you want to document something. So underexposure is manageable, overexposure is the killer. I would love to have reports from you. Which camera do you use and which range can you cover with this technique? And it isn't important that you use a white wall. Anything that is structured and has a neutral color, something whitish, green, grayish, is usable. You can even use tarmac or concrete or something like that, fairly dark stuff. You just have to have some details like this here, so that you can say, okay, there is still structure in there or not. And when you have got your results, just post them as a comment to this episode in meetthegimp.org. Four years ago, there was an exhibition here in Bremen by Diana Thater. And she is a video installation artist and made out of a room a big underwater cube with 4 overcross projections of, well, underwater footage. It was really great. And one thing, a little bit on the side, was showing time-lapse film, a speeded up film, from a cloudscape over San Francisco. There was a trick to it. The 3 colors of this film didn't run in the same speed. Like in my video here. In my video, the 3 channels are half a second apart, and in her video it was, I think, a little bit more. Everything that wasn't fixed was displayed in the real colors, because red, green and blue channel add up to the standard colors, to the normal colors. But everything that moved had colorful halos around it. to do something similar in photography, I set up my camera on a tripod next to our river and pointed it to a training dragon boat crew. And then I shot a series of images. And these are the images I want to try here. This is the first one, the second one, and this the third one, sorry. If you have noticed, the boat is going forward in each of them, and some people are moving. But first, before we can really start here, we have to put these images into one and register them, so that each image is exactly over the other. I'm not sure if these images are exactly registered. I have a good tripod and I made a mistake. It was windy and I had it fully extended, just for convenience of standing and not crouching behind the camera. Well, we'll see if I have to pay the penalty for that. I choose the image with the leftmost boat here. This will be my base, and I put that in here, and now I select the other boat here and just pull this, and now I select the third image and also pull this into here. Okay, now I have an image here of, let's rename them here, left, middle, right. For registering, I need something that hasn't moved in the wind and hasn't moved by another thing here. So I just zoom into to this telephone pole here, and here it is. Now I reduce the opacity on the top layer, and you see nothing happens. Ah, you see the tree moves a bit. Okay, let's look here. There's the movement. Okay, we have a camera movement from the bottom to the middle image here. Well, let's go here to about 50%. For seeing the differences between these two layers, the layer mode of difference is best. You see here, this is a little bit shifted. Now I go to the bottom here, select the move tool, click into it, and now I'm using not the mouse or the pen, but I'm using the keypad. Go to the right, to the top it's worse, to the bottom, and to the right worse, left again, bottom worse, up, left, and I think this is the best I can get. Let's check somewhere else in the image. Well, these things here have moved due to the wind, and if we go down here to the dragon boat, you see some nice differences. Perhaps this would be a nice method for making an image too. Just put these to show time. Just put them on top of each other and set the mode to difference. This has something. This. But now I change back here to normal mode, and here we are. This has to be done up in the opacity too. But before we start really with this image, I have to do some basic modifications. That would be first rotating this image because it's not level, and then making a nice crop out of it. And for a better overview, I've set the opacity of the top layer to around 30 here, the middle layer to around 50, and the bottom layer is at 100. And so I have all three layers visible in my image. You see here 3 times the trainer whipping his crew. First I thought this image wasn't level, but then I checked. Well, this way here, it goes down. Here is a ferry to the right, and this way has a slope down. So this is a bit tricky. But the boat's here. The boat is running in parallel to my point. It is level. And on the other side here, there are a lot of poles here that are not quite straight. This one looks straight. This two, the people are upright. So I simply define this as level. Next stop would be cropping. And I want to have this a little bit like a panorama. I want to have it start here on the left because the end of the boat is right here. And I want a little bit more space in front of it because it's moving through the frame. And now I have to decide, do I want to include this here or not? Let's do an inside-out crop. Let's start with the stuff that should be in there. And I think I should go right to the left border here. And I should include the sky. Not much of it, but a bit of the sky. Perhaps a bit more of the water here. This is my rule of thirds line here. And perhaps a little bit more on the front. And now the big question, include this here or not? And I think it would be nice if it's there. It's brings a little bit of color into the image and gives a little bit more of context. But I don't think this one here, because this is cut off on the edge. I think this one here, this is fine. The line here goes up, I think a little bit more on the top. I think I'll leave it at this here. Just click into the image and I have it cropped. I want to have the last boat here to be red and the middle one green and the front one blue. So I go here to, let me deselect this first and put the opacity back to 100. I go to colors and components, decompose. And now I decompose this layer to RGB. I click on it. And here's my first image, red, green and blue. This is the most on the right, and I want it to be that blue. Let's simply discard these two layers, and then we have left the blue layer, or the blue channel, as a layer over. Back to this image here. The middle one, I'm doing the same thing. Colors, components, decompose, RGB. And this time I am saving the green layer. And for the third one, I'll do the same for the left one. Colors, components, decompose. And here I keep the red one. And now I simply go to colors, components, compose, not recompose, because I don't have all these images. I've lost some of them. And I can here click on compose, RGB, and now I have to look. This one here, this number 18, this has been the red layer, and I use that as red. Here, for green, I use the green channel that is still there, and for the blue, I use the blue one. The trick here is, because I have deleted the other layers, there is this information still there. If I hadn't deleted them, I would have had not only 3 layers here as a selection, but I would have had 9, and so this is a bit better. So let's click on OK and look what happens. And here we are. Everything that has moved has now a color. Let's look here at this ball. There's a red ball, a green ball, and a blue ball. And here, this person. It's, well, tripled? Not really tripled. On the boat, we have here we have a cyan, magenta, and yellow boat. You can explore other ways. For example, do color, components, compose, and then select not RGB, but CMY. And now choose for cyan, let's say the red, the green, and the blue channel. And now let's have a look. I don't know what will happen now. Here we are. You see, there's a lot of room for creativity here. Just switch them around a bit, or let's try to invert this here. Just invert. Well, and we have the thing we had before. Okay, that wasn't very clever, but a little bit of insight into this somehow colors are working. Recomposing to HSV gives you this experience here. Well, it contained no prescription drugs or something illegal. And this is LAB. Quite unusual, isn't it? And so there's a lot to explore here. But now I'll show you quite a difference which makes the movement a little bit more clear. For this, I'll make black and white images out of these 3 layers. I'll go the easy road today and just tell here desaturate. I said in some previous podcasts, don't use this way because you are losing a lot of possibilities, but this here is just for speeding up. If I would use the channel mixer, it would use some more time, but perhaps it would be worth it. Okay, I was in the wrong layer. Again, I decompose this here. It wouldn't be strictly necessary because I could simply use the right and middle and left layer, but this works only with images that have been decomposed. A little bit strange, but well, I think it is this way. So this was right, middle, and left. this is my rightmost image, and I go to Colors, Components, Compose, and here I'm in with my selection. I choose again RGB, and here I can just see the end of the windows here. I take this as my red channel. I take from this as my green channel. All the channels are the same, so I can take for every image here the red channel. And I recompose. And here is the result. We have a little bit of color in the water. We have yellow, magenta and cyan in the boat, blue here, some color mixes, red, green and blue with the ball, the moving ball, and the rest of the image is black and white. Now I can take my hue and saturation tool, for example, and just boost the saturation of this image here a little bit to get stronger colors. Perhaps a little bit of lightness added. I think this technique is quite promising. Perhaps not so good with this boat on the water, because here I have a lot of background shining through. But if you look at this here, the ball player, this is simply great, and I think worth to explore. I hope that I've given you something to tinker about, to think about, to experiment with. This definitely isn't high art. The results are, let's say, interesting. But I think if you are going into this, there are a lot of possibilities to show lapse of time, to show progression of time in photographs, either this way or in a different way. Just put your camera on a tripod and shoot a series and explore from there. I think this was it for this week. Next week I'll explore a little bit more about the zone system by going out to a special place here in Bremen, a special place for GIMP. There I'll shoot some images with my new knowledge about my camera and try to do it like Ansel Adams. Well, I doubt I should say the name Ansel Adams in connection with my images, but I'll use his technique. And with that, I say goodbye. Up to next week.
photocastnetwork.com, your photography resource in the potosphere. photocastnetwork.com